Welcome everyone to episode 15, the Quinceañera episode of the Texosity series, presented by the 210 Culture Podcast and Pub Culture Radio. Where the fuck are these 210 Culture Podcast motherfuckers at? They hadn't been posting in a fucking minute. Happy Pride Month, everyone. Happy LGBTQ plus Pride Month. In honor of Pride Month, I am, of course, bringing awareness about just how fucking awful Texas is and the gay panic defense practice that is still very legal here. For those who do not know, the gay defense panic or homosexual advance defense is a legal strategy in which a defendant claims to have acted in a state of violent temporary insanity, committing assault or murder because of unwanted same-sex sexual advances, typically from men. Basically, someone may find the same-sex sexual advances so offensive or frightening that they were provoked into reacting in self-defense. Oof. So if I say this whenever I get assaulted by a man, would police finally take me seriously? This is definitely a happy month to celebrate different individuals and their sexual orientation, their preferences, and everything. It's definitely a month for those in the community to come out, be themselves, and love themselves. But I also want to bring awareness that the LGBTQ plus community is definitely one of the main communities that gets assaulted all the time. They get picked on, they get bullied, violent hate crimes against them, and it's just for being themselves. I don't fucking understand it. I'll never fucking understand how somebody can have so much hatred towards individuals that just are different. They're different from us. Fucking ridiculous. All I'm gonna say, if you are a homophobic fuck, just mind your fucking business. What is a big deal about being open about their sexuality or who they are as an individual? Like, why the fuck do you care so much that you're so pressed about that? So I'm gonna be spitting some facts for you guys. So according to an article on theconversation.com, Texas has had 6 or more cases relating to gay panic defense between the years of 1970 and 2021. There may be a lot more cases than recorded, as the FBI does not collect information about anyone's sexual orientation or sexual identity of homicide victims. Another article I found on apnews.com with the title, "Murders Have Texas Gay Community on Edge," talking about the horrible, violent ways people who identified under LGBTQ+ were murdered in 1994. Just to shed some light on a few, the first one that they mentioned was Leopoldo Paul Quintanilla. He was found dead June 21st, 1994, with his hands bound behind his back and was stabbed more than a dozen times, his throat and genitals cut. That is some sick shit. What the fuck is wrong with people? The second person is Michael J. Brzezinski. He was murdered on July 29th, 1994. He was leaving a nightclub in the gay section of Houston when he was hit in the head as he unlocked his car door, then forced into the back seat. The murderers took his car and drove him to a secluded area where he was shot execution style. And the murderers were actually these teenage boys that just did that shit for, shits and giggles because thought it was fucking hilarious. The third person is Tommy Music. He was murdered February of 1994 as well. A testimony said that the murderer went insane after Tommy allegedly made persistent sexual advances towards him. He was shot 4 times in the back of the head. It is truly fucking horrifying to read articles about the tragic ways the LGBTQ plus community has been targeted by these macho mentality fucks or these religious fucks. You religious freaks are like the worst. I have nothing against religion. I really don't. I have my views on it. Definitely stand behind those views of religion, but come on now, the religious freaks really do scare me, especially the ones that are like, well, God made me do it because God told me to. He was in my dreams and he told me that I needed to kill somebody. What the fuck? What the fuck? And also how the practices of religion go back into this Bible scripture from thousands and thousands of years ago that claim that homosexuality is a sin. How is that possible? How homosexuality is a sin and it's bad, and basically they're being judged when God is supposedly not supposed to be judging people and he's supposed to love everybody. How does that work? Along with this article is a statement from Dick Wayne Holt, who was the chairman of the Texas Christian Coalition at the time, not sure if he still is, and I don't really care, says his group considers homosexuality immoral and has fought legislation that specifically benefits or protects the gay community. Weinhold did say, "I just reject flat out any kind of notion that holding a position opposing special rights for homosexuals would somehow suggest that people can become vigilantes and have lynching. That's ridiculous." Back in 1993, gays and lesbians were a distant second to victims of racial hatred in Texas. 69.1% of hate crimes were considered racially motivated, while 11.5% were related to sexual orientation, according to the Texas Department of Public Safety. The most recent gay panic defense murder in Texas was in 2015. Defendant James Miller, 69, received 10 years of probation in 2018 for killing his neighbor, 32-year-old Daniel Spencer. Miller invited Spencer to his house for a night of fun and drinking. It is said that they bonded over their love of music, and so Miller invited him over. Miller rejected a kiss from Spencer and allegedly made Spencer upset. Miller then alleged that Spencer lunged toward him and threatened him with a glass, prompting Miller to defend himself by stabbing Spencer with a knife. The jury then convicted Miller of criminally negligent homicide, a charge that's lighter than murder or manslaughter. Miller used gay panic in his defense. The fact that this sick fuck used the gay panic defense and got away with a lighter sentence is disgusting. What kind of fucking message are we giving others? Like, this is just utter fucking bullshit. Are we just saying that the LGBTQ plus individuals don't fucking matter? Like, they're less than everybody else? No. If an LGBTQ plus individual is making sexual advances towards you, why the fuck would you be prone to fucking murdering them? Like, what kind of rage would you have to fucking murder them? Just say, "No, I'm sorry." That's all you could fucking say. Like, it's just crazy to me. The different things that they can just get away with, or the different things that they could do and make it seem like it's okay. It's not okay. Fast forwarding to 2020. According to equalitytexas.org, 18 transgender individuals were murdered in Texas. Second to Florida, which saw 20. Another article by texasobserver.org gives us insight about a trans individual by the name of Grayson Rodriguez. When he came out as trans when he was 13, the family faced abuse, death threats, cruelty, and aggression. People from his very neighborhood sending him mail, telling him to kill himself and that they wanted him to die. They literally had to move into a more progressive area in Austin, and Grayson had to attend online school to avoid threats being made towards him. What kind of bullshit is that? This individual can't even live their life normally like a normal teenager without getting some kind of fucking death threats because he's a trans? What the fuck does that matter to you? I digress. I'm getting very heated about this, but it's true. So Lauren Rodriguez is Grayson Rodriguez's mom, actually testified in front of the Texas House Committee on Criminal Jurisprudence in support of House Bill 73, which would ban the use of the gay trans panic defense. The 87th Texas legislator unfortunately failed to pass HB 73, and the gay trans panic defense is still an acceptable excuse for violence against these vulnerable individuals. St. Edward's University actually posted an article sometime last year on their website where they researched and analyzed 99 gay trans panic defense cases and researched that there are 4 types of gay trans panic defenses. The first one is insanity, excuse defense, which focuses on the defendant's state of mind at the time of the crime. Diminished capacity, excuse defense, which focuses on the defendant's state of mind at the time of the crime. Provocation, also an excuse defense. The provocation defense alleges that a gay man or trans woman murder victim, through their own nonviolent behavior toward the defendant, played a role in their own murder. Self-defense, where the defendant seeks to justify his use of deadly force by claiming he was defending his life from an attempted sexual assault. So it's okay for these fucking men to kill a gay trans individual in self-defense, but when we do it, when some motherfucker is trying to get up all on me and I'm trying to self-defense and I kill him, I get sentenced. How the fuck does that work? That's how fucked up this fucking society is. They also concluded that defendants were more likely to inflict lethal violence on their gay victims using weapons that involve close and personal contact. These cases researched involved knives at 42.65%, hands at 35.9%, and or objects 22.06%, such as crowbars, hammers, and tire jacks. They did say that for cases that involved knives, the victims were stabbed multiple times. It was also mentioned that there is a greater risk of lethal violence faced to trans women of color. Of the 31 trans women where race ethnicity information is available, the majority were people of color, with 21 at 67.74% of the victims African American, 7 Latinx 22.06%, 2 were white at 6.45%, and 1 Native American at 3.23%. It's baffling to me. There's so much oppression with the different minorities, and then to be an African American LGBTQ plus individual, that must be fucking tough. I can't imagine. And like I said, I don't understand what the whole homophobia shit is. I mean, with all this information that I'm providing you, I'm pretty sure you want to know too. We all want to know why. Why and where did all this homophobia start? Well, kitty cats, let me tell you. According to the New York Times, there was a study conducted over the virulence and tenacity of anti-gay feelings, and new findings suggest that some men use hostility and violence to homosexuals to reassure themselves of their own sexuality. These motherfuckers are just trying to reassure themselves that they're not gay. That is the only fucking reason? That is one of the main reasons? Just to reassure themselves of their own sexuality? Like, why are you so pressed, bro? Just fucking move on if you don't like that shit. Another portion of anti-homosexual bias is a combination of fear and self-righteousness in which homosexuals are perceived as contemptible threats to the moral universe. And such acts like being barred from the armed services and many laws in many states illegalizing their sexual activities supports these claims. Fuck. I don't know if you guys knew this, but up until 1980, homosexuality was considered a mental disorder. 1980. Bitch, that wasn't that long ago, let me tell you. At the fact that being homosexual was considered a mental disorder. And that's why they were part of the individuals that would get lobotomies back in the 1950s. Shit, bitch. I'd be the one getting a fucking lobotomy too. Shit, with my ADHD and my depression, I'd be fucked, let me tell you. One finding that they concluded was that hostility towards homosexuals is far more accepted among large number of Americans than is bias against other groups. Many homosexuals say they have been harassed by people calling them names, and as many as 1 in 4 say they have been physically assaulted. 1 in 4. It could be your sibling, your cousin, your uncle, your aunt. You don't fucking know. That's why most of these individuals don't even want to come out. You know how fucking hard it is for them having to come out, deal with the abuse of these fucking strangers? It could break anybody down. Anti-gay violence is still acceptable because while leaders decry racial and religious bigotry, they ignore violence against gays and lesbians, said Matt Foreman, executive director of the New York City Gay and Lesbian Anti-Violence Project. Dr. Herrick, who has done extensive research on attitudes towards homosexuals, say that people often act out of adherence to religious orthodoxy in faiths that hold homosexuality to be a sin. If God is love, why the fuck would God tell you to harass them or to do anything towards them? That's the thing about religion. It's so contradicting to me. I don't understand it. Maybe because I see things in a logical standpoint. It's so contradicting and so hypocritical. As many of you may or may not know, in the 1980s and 90s, the US had seen an increase in hostility towards homosexuals because of the AIDS HIV epidemic. And while many think that was the main reason America turned severely homophobic, it was more of, quote, a conventional hook on which they can hang their pre-existing prejudices, unquote. It's crazy. So if you guys want more information on the AIDS HIV epidemic, I highly recommend you watch the Dark History episode by Bailey Sarian. She deep dives into the HIV AIDS epidemic and how that sick fuck Ronald Reagan didn't do a goddamn thing but make fun of these fucking people that were dying every day. The government took forever. And I'm telling you, forever. It seems like a whole fucking decade before they were able to help these people because they did not give a fuck. It's just so... And it took years. And the only reason they even decided to start doing something about it was because somebody, a big celebrity that Ronald Reagan, I guess, liked, died of AIDS. And so he was like, oh, no, we gotta do something. Bitch, you should have done something since the first fucking person died, you piece of shit. The AIDS epidemic of the 80s and 90s tragically affected the LGBTQ plus community. And of course, the government wasn't doing jack shit about it. They were taking their sweet ass time trying to come up with vaccines or something to be able to help these people and basically mocking the community for what was happening to them without any action towards a cure. Organizations like the Gay Men's Health Crisis were providing care for patients who were falling ill, but also in response to the AIDS epidemic, a number of states, including wonderful Texas, enacted laws prohibiting instruction on LGBTQ plus issues in public education. You know, sweeping that shit under the rug like they do with every terrible racial thing that has happened in history. According to equalitytexas.org, as of 2021, Texas is the only state that prohibits instructions on LGBTQ plus issues in both general education programs and in sexual education. We have not progressed at all. Not providing education on LGBTQ plus issues or even sexual education as a whole. Texas sucks. They are over here like, oh, abstinence, you know what I mean? Like, don't have sex at all, you'll die. You know, we're at the age where we can have sex, and that's why we're over here fucking catching STDs. All these things are happening. Like, honestly, I didn't know that most of the STDs that are out there don't have symptoms. So you could literally be symptom free and, you know, contract an STD and you may never fucking know. And so that shit is like eating you from the inside. So you have no fucking idea. It's a problem. And of course, educating kids on the LGBTQ plus community definitely helps them be more open about individuals who fall under the LGBTQ plus community, more accepting, because it could be anybody. Anybody in your fucking family could be a part of the LGBTQ plus community and you wouldn't even fucking know it. And once you find out, you're like, oh shit. Like, I don't know what to do. How the fuck? Why? You know, it's all these emotions that run through you, but it's like, just be accepting of it. I'm not too sure what the big deal is and why Texas just can't get their shit together. Fuck, I'm really going on a tangent here. But I'm sure you get my drift. So what can we do? Us as a community that supports the LGBTQ plus, what can we fucking do? Well, support our LGBTQ family by being there for them. Hearing them out, supporting them, defending them if you hear somebody talking shit to them and actually, you know, meaning it. They've had a fucking rough ass life. They grew up trying to figure out who they were, and then once they figure out and accepted themselves for who they were and feeling somehow, you know, content about it, and then for other people to just bring them fucking down and just be like, die, you fucking motherfucker. It's devastating. That's why I'm sure I didn't even look it up, but I'm sure there's a lot of, you know, suicide cases that involve people being in the LGBTQ plus community. That's something that we definitely need to look into. I'm sure that their mental health isn't in a good state when they're constantly being bullied, harassed, physically abused, Also, I got a lot of my information on equalitytexas.org. They are a community website, and you can also donate. Definitely, I'll link it down below just in case you guys want to check out the website. There's a lot of great information, great resources, and also, if you guys are able to donate, please donate. Not only support your LGBTQ plus community in Pride Month, but definitely support them even outside of that. You don't know what anybody is going through. Don't be part of the fucking stigma of people that shame them and fucking tell them shit. No. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's their life, not yours. So mind your fucking business. For my LGBTQ plus family, people, community, I'm with you. I hear you. I support you. And I fucking love you. Be who you are and don't let anybody get in the way of that. Be yourself. Be a fucking star. Shine bright. And don't let anybody kill that fucking shine. Because you are a fucking bad bitch. And let these motherfuckers know. Thank you guys so much for joining me in this episode. It's kind of short, but I just wanted to bring some awareness. Again, thank you so much for listening. And to my rant is basically like a big ass rant. And of course, happy Pride Month. I am going to really try to upload more, but if I don't, I am so sorry. It happens every quarter, promise. And I have the next episode ready to go. So one corona, good to go. With that being said, my name is Donna, and I will see you guys later. Bye.